Hello everybody and welcome back to the Judge's Decision podcast, the show where we put robots from all across the modern series of any robot fighting shows and live events and make them fight to the ultimate death. There shall be one champion at the end of the series, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing or hearing who that is. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, and this isn't the RoboCast, but we do share a certain member of the RoboCast. So please welcome Steve the American Killjoy.
Yeah, sorry. I'm actually here on time today because I never turn up on time because I'm Steve the American Killjoy. I'm joking. It's Anderson 913 the Robots Guru. You had one job, Jevon.
There was a bit of a New York accent in there. It was very much a
look. Steve's accent is weird. It's half Miami, half freaking New Jersey. All right, he's weird.
Fair.
I still love him though. Bless him.
Yeah,
he's a good lad, even if he never turns up on time.
Top chap. It's fine. I took long enough to start this properly, so you know.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, we have literally been here now for half an hour waiting for your laptop to sort itself out. So, yeah.
Okay, so in a complete opposite to last week, this week Anderson is bringing the robots to the table, and it is my job to try and sort through them to see who is the winner. So, without further ado, Anderson, if you'd like to introduce me.
So, this is a World of Woodrow. Oh, right, you want to introduce the robots. Right, okay, sorry.
I saw that joke coming a mile off.
Well, you set yourself up for it, really.
I did. I fully walked into that one.
So, Jevon, your mission, if you choose not to accept it, is to decide the winner, the one winning robot of these three robots that I'm about to read out to you. Because Melee 1 consists of Huge from BattleBots 9, so the more recent Huge.
Ooh.
Ripper, the latest Ripper from the live event, so the one that's more flipper than robot.
Ooh.
And Beta from BattleBots 7.
Ooh.
And he's acting like he didn't know those were the robots we were going to be discussing.
Yes. Okie dokie.
Remember, but before we continue, just remember this is the Series 10 Arena, Series 10 Heat Layout. This is a Robot Wars, obviously, and Series 10 House Robots. Speaking of which House Robot are you picking for this battle, Jevon?
I've got to go with my homeboy Shunt because he's such a lad.
The worst House Robot, right? Okay, yeah.
Hey, he's drunk and you know it. Okay, so we have two BattleBots machines. I'd like to call them from two different eras, because they are, technically. And then we have Ripper, who I'm pretty sure actually tried to apply for BattleBots at one point. So, yeah,
probably.
This is quite an interesting heat, or an interesting melee anyway. Huge is a very interesting robot. As it's the more recent one, they are incredibly modular this year. They have a setup for every occasion. So I feel they'd be quite well suited to Ripper and Beta. Ripper really struggles with tall robots, robots like Gabriel. Now, I just want to ask you a question, Anderson. Ripper.
Yes.
Are we assuming that it will be Ripper as modern as we can possibly go with it?
Yes.
Okay. In which case, they have recently built an anti-Gabriel thing.
Oh.
Which is basically a cage. Yep. That is attached to their flipper.
Yep.
Which should make them tall enough to control Gabriel.
Bloody hell.
Now...
So they've gone to the Andrew Marchant School of...
They have definitely gone to the Andrew Marchant School of Roboteering and screwing people over. So...
I wouldn't go that far, but okay.
Tell you what, I was genuinely starstruck. I'm even starstruck now. Genuinely starstruck to meet Andrew Marchant at the weekend. Genuine honour. Anyway,
yeah.
So I'm thinking Ripper's going to go in with that. Whether that would survive, because that tactic didn't work for free shipping when they faced Huge last year, I am honestly thinking that it's going to be between Beta and Huge here. And I know I'm ruling out Ripper very early on, but if it is the most recent version of Ripper, they've slowly been declining in quality of robot. They've been focusing on some of their other robots, which is, I'm perfectly fine with that because they've got some really cool robots. You've got Galactus and you've got Little Ripper, which is their middleweight.
Yeah.
But Ripper itself is sort of starting to slip. And for me, that, I want to say lack of reliability now, could let them down here.
Another thing I want to also mention is you said that they got that anti-Gabriel cage thingamajigger, and yeah, that's great when you have up against an Axel bot like Gabriel because you've got a fixed weapon to work with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But if you try and put that cage into a spinning bar, it's a little bit different, and I can quite simply see that cage getting smashed to pieces myself personally.
Absolutely, yeah. So my thinking is that it will be sort of a repeat of what Huge did to free shipping last year, where they just took it to bits.
Yeah.
You add extra stuff, you expect that extra stuff to get broken, basically, and that's how I see it. Out of Beta and Huge, this is very difficult because Beta could easily swing the hammer over and hit a vital spot that could eventually break Huge. Now, I don't know whether Huge can actually break in half this year. We've not actually seen it happen yet.
No.
So I'd have to assume so far that it won't happen to Huge.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Meanwhile, Huge, I think, in this fight, are going to be spinning downwards. And the reason I say this is because both of the weaponry on Ripper and on Beta, if they go against Ripper, if they spin downwards, they're going to hit the top of Ripper, and if they flip, they're just going to bounce off and carry on as normal, as if nothing happened. On Beta, however, if they spin downwards, they're going to hit something vital, because Beta doesn't have that top armour.
Yeah. I also want to say that Huge... hammer. The problem with overhead weaponry is that you have to have particularly great aim.
Yes.
And I love Beta. It's got a great big hammer, but Huge is a very fiddly little. Well, not little, but it's very fiddly nonetheless. And there's not a lot of robot to hit in between those wheels.
Definitely not.
So whilst I agree with you that it is definitely possible Beta can get a reasonable few hits in, it's also very possible that it can miss every single shot it takes.
Yeah. I think Ripper will try and go... If the cage thing gets ripped off, which, let's face it, it's going to be, I can see Ripper going for Beta. And Beta, though good at self-righting most of the time, if it's been, I want to say shafted by Huge, they're not going to be self-righting as well as they'd hope. So, by this logic, I'm going to say something I never thought I would say, but Huge, I think, is going to win this one for me.
Yeah, I can't honestly disagree. Simply because of, I was actually, believe it or not, I was actually originally on Team Ripper, believe it or not.
Really?
Until you reminded me about the reliability. And when that came forward, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Well, yeah, because the reason why I thought it was because obviously they could get Huge towards one of the side walls and maybe get it out of the arena.
Yeah.
And whilst Beta can self-right, it's not the quickest at self-righting. And again, John Finley's been at this game now for many a year. He's a very good driver. He knows how to drive his robot. So I can see them being able to outmaneuver the hammer of Beta and get around the sides and get all those important flips in. So I could definitely see Ripper winning until you reminded me about the reliability. And then I was like, oh yeah, like 3 hits from Huge and that thing's probably going to be dead. So
Yes. It's a shame because the new version of Ripper last year, if you look at it, went, what was it, 6 shows out of 7 won? Is that right? Or is it 5 shows out of 6?
Yeah, oh yeah,
it was something like that.
It was ridiculous. It basically steamrolled the whole thing. It was daft.
Until it mattered most, and it was Aftershock coming on the scene that I think started their sort of slow deterioration, because if you look in their Aftershock's first fight against Ripper gets triple spiraled through the air, like does a triple backflip. It's incredible to watch, and apparently the Roboteers all fully soiled themselves. But this
rightfully
is
so.
Yeah, this is the downfall of Ripper, and I really hope they can do something to it to make it better, but in our tournament it is the most up-to-date version, which is going to fight in Colchester on Saturday, and at time of recording it's Thursday.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
Yeah,
Top, sneak peeks there from the Judge Decision podcast.
Yes. Ooh.
So are you sticking with Ripper then? Not Ripper, Huge. Are you sticking with Huge?
Yes, I am sticking with Huge for this one. I think that Huge is a robot that is underestimated quite a bit, but so far this season of BattleBots has beaten, spoilers here, has beaten Gigabyte, has beaten Bronco, has beaten Jasper. Not overly difficult, but we love you, Tom. We really love you, Tom. And I mean, the only thing that stopped working was the drive on Jasper. The weapon was still going.
Yeah.
And
the only thing that's beaten Huge so far is Son of Archie, which, let's be fair now, has not been a robot to mess with this season. So,
no.
I honestly, I know I speak for all three of the Robocasters when I say that we feel very silly for saying that we think Son of Archie's winning potential might have diminished a bit over.
Yes, you fools.
So Huge through then, and who are you saying comes second? Who are you saying comes third? Because obviously that's what dictates the losers redemption rounds.
I'm gonna say Beta is gonna come second in this one. Ripper comes third.
Fair enough.
Because Ripper's gonna get chopped to bits, and I can see the judges, i.e. us, counting that damage to the frame as soon as you bolt it to the flipper. It's a bit of the weaponry, therefore it is damage if it gets broken.
Yes, definitely. Yep. Okay, so Huge goes through to the Heat semi-finals then. Ripper goes into the second redemption round. Beta goes into the first redemption battle.
Yeah.
Second fight of the night. I'm a poet, I don't know it. We have Magnetar from Robot Wars Series 10.
He's a boy
Sabre
genius! Sorry, I had to throw it in
it's brilliant, isn't it? Sabre from the 2019 opening battle that happened earlier this year, and from, I don't know why I picked this robot now I think about it, just for shits and giggles really. Steel God of War from King of Bonds. What house robot is going to be in this one, Jevon?
I'm going to be very cruel and put Sir Killalot in.
Oh, good man. I was hoping you would. Right. I don't think this is going to take much discussion from you, but go on. Who do you think is going to win?
Steel God of War. No.
Yes, the other two just spontaneously combust. That's it. Steel God of War wins the series.
It's Magnetar. It could happen.
Look, that's still a little bit of a sore subject. So you just 2 years later.
At least I didn't mention Hobgoblin.
Well, I mean, you're lucky that you're in Norfolk right now, so I would strangle you.
I will take that action. Right. Weird. So, basically, Magnetar has this.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to need to explain to you why it has this.
Oh, well, okay. Well, let's just get Steel God of War out of the way first, shall we? All three of them things are going flying, aren't they? Let's be fair.
They very much are. They're going upwards. I'm shocked if one doesn't end up in the ceiling.
Yes, because I mean, Magnetar was hitting 110 kilo machines, and some of them quite high in the air.
Yes.
Considering these are like a third of that weight.
Yes.
I honestly think we could get a. This is just from my personal 2 cents. I honestly think we could get a repeat of Big Nipper yeeting one of the middleweight, one of the two halves of Crackers and Smash out of the arena over a big wall. I think we could see that with one of these here.
Definitely. Magnetar is an absolute beast. Having seen it at Robo Nerd, it just makes that feel even better. And they too are competing at Extreme Robots this weekend, and I cannot wait.
Nice.
But yes, back to our lovely podcast. Steel God of War has a flipper to contend with, and then Magnetar to contend with, not compend with, that's not a word. And if that isn't enough, Sir Killalot's just going to grab a hold or run over one of them and break it. You got the floor flipper, which could easily uter one of the cluster bots. It's basically the dumb ways to die of this podcast. Steel God of War is toast, really. And
I just want to say now, the reason why I put Still God of War is because I just wanted to have a bit of a laugh over it being smashed to pieces.
it is amusing, and
Is it?
they made it onto a podcast. Bearing in mind they've only ever been in one fight and they lost it, they made it onto a podcast of a proportion.
Yeah.
Now, Sabre Magnetar, because these are the two robots that are going to be left here. Sabre looks very breakable. It has a lot of bits to it. It's especially the newer version. The older version also looked very breakable. This one more so. It's sort of like a Chinese knockoff version of Tanshay, without the sort of front wedge. Now they've got a sort of... Do you know, I can't begin to describe their flipper. It is really odd flipper.
It's a sort of rear-hinged Toro-esque flipper, isn't it, almost?
It's very spatula-based.
Yes.
But their armour invites destruction, I would say. Magnetar, knowing how good a driver Ellis is, and knowing how amazing Magnetar is, there is no feasible way that Sabre is winning this fight. Also, Magnetar has magnets holding it to the arena floor, so Sabre's not going to be able to flip it very far. We saw this with Eruption in the three-way melee against Rapid and Magnetar, that when the flipper went up, the robot didn't really want to go anywhere. So, yeah, Magnetar for me. We've stretched this out more so than is needed here, but, you know, it's all good fun, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like you say, I can just see it hitting Sabre religiously.
Yes.
And we have seen footage of Sabre, obviously, in that 2019 opening battle, as well as other battles, and it hasn't dealt very well with spinners.
No.
And considering Magnetar is just a spinner on a whole other level at this point, I really cannot see... I'm going to full agreement with you. I can quite easily see Magnetar going through this one. It's just up to you whether you think Steel God of War or Sabre comes third and second. So
Steel God of War is coming third.
Jolly good.
Concisively.
That's fair enough. So obviously that means that Steel God of War goes into the first redemption battle.
Yes.
Face off against Beta. And then obviously that... and then that obviously leaves what's left of Sabre going up against Ripper in the second redemption round. So,
yes.
Speaking of which, first redemption battle, obviously, like I just mentioned, was Beta versus Steel God of War. House robot for this one?
Matilda.
Tildy, darling. Oh dear. Well, they didn't go flying last time. They're going to go flying this time, aren't they? Jesus Christ. Right, go on. I know you're going to probably want to think for quite a while over this one.
Well,
who do you think's going to win?
Genuinely, this may be a very difficult match for Beta.
I suppose because they're very hard to hit because they're so small, aren't they?
Very small. And Beta takes a long old time to swing over, tends to swing itself about as well, and ends up hitting the floor a lot. We saw this against Lucky in their... I think it was their first fight in BattleBots, wasn't it? They went up against Lucky?
Yes.
In ABC Season 2, that is.
Yes.
So, Steel God of War, I think, are going to do a reasonable job of staying out of the way. I think we're going to see the activation of the Doom Dial at some point, whether that be Fog of War, which will do nothing.
Like usual.
Yeah, basically. Whether it be the Pit or whether it be Rogue House Robot. If it's Rogue House Robot, from past experience, using the Hexbug toys, Matilda can do very little to Beta.
Yes.
Whereas Steel God of War may be in a spot of bother.
Oh, definitely. I also want to just quickly say as well, if the Doom Dial does activate the Pit, surely it can't be too difficult for Beta just to scoop a couple of them up and put them in the pit. You know what I mean? Like, surely.
They seem to make easy work of Carbide in when they were terahertz in Robot Wars Series 8.
Yeah.
So John Reed has the advantage, most definitely, having been in this arena before. He knows how it works, how it runs. He can put Steel God of War on the floor flipper, hope for another Uta for one of them. He can use the house robots to the advantage. Steel God of War may even get stuck on the flame pit, who knows. But yeah, this is a fight where I think Beta's going to use the hammer less, and therefore not be so aggressive, but be more controlling and beat Steel God of War that way. I still think it would be a knockout, and if not, retire John Reed.
Well, considering he's immortal and he won't retire, that means Beta are through to the Heat semi-finals, which means they will be going up against Magnetar in their semi-final battle.
Ooh.
Speaking of, so we're on to the second redemption battle. We then have Sabre versus Ripper. Who is the house robot for this battle?
There's only one left, so I'm going to have to go for Dead Metal.
Dead metal of the dead variety. I like it.
Yes.
Nice to see that you left the save the best for last. So, go on. Who do you think's going to win out of Ripper or Sabre?
Battle of the Flippers. So obviously they're going for the ground clearance battle, and this is going to be quite an interesting one. Sabre, their flipper invites, well, doesn't invite, but it enjoys getting under robots that have a bit of a gap at the front, in the middle. Whereas Ripper has sort of those two, I want to call them the overbite because it looks like two front teeth sticking out. And that invites getting either side of something that sticks out of maybe a pontoon in the middle. So realistically, it's going to be a case of who flips first. And it's going to be Ripper, basically, isn't it? Who's going to flip first.
Yeah.
Sabre then is going to be sent flying, and they struggle to self-right. Watching them in King of Bots is upsetting.
Hard sometimes.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
watching
painful.
King of Bots is painful sometimes.
Well, it gives me headaches and seizures, but, there we go.
It's the only robot... No, it's the only TV show, sorry, that comes with its own warning for...
Yeah. I'm gonna say this as well. I mean, the way I look at it is, when it comes to two flippers like this, when a robot has got more surface area to get underneath you, it's always going to have more of an advantage.
Yeah.
Now, we've discussed that Sabre's got this little piddly flipper at the front. Meanwhile, Ripper's got this great big huge bucket on the front of their flipper.
I mean,
That's
it is more flipper than
easily
robot.
get underneath. It will easily get underneath all of Sabre, basically. Meanwhile, Sabre's surface area to get underneath Ripper is a lot smaller, so it'll be a lot harder for them to get underneath any exposed areas.
Yeah. I think Ripper has this fight won before their reliability issues kick in.
Yeah.
And they're going to get an Uta, I think, here. Just to give
definitely
a win condition. Sure, Sabre can go out of the arena.
Yep, that sounds cool to me. That's fair. So Ripper is through then to the second semi-final, where it will be facing off against Huge again. Oh dear.
Yeah.
But first of all, before that, we've got the other semi-final. So of course, we have Beta versus Magnetar. Which two house robots are you picking?
Ooh, let's go for Sir Killalot and Matilda.
Edgy. So, who do you think's going to win?
Well, this is an interesting one. Beta once tried magnets on the underside of their robot. I think I'm right in saying that.
Yes,
Don't
they did.
think
Yes,
they did for ABC Season 2 though.
No, the reason why was because I believe they were a bit too strong. So yeah.
That will give you issues when you start to take the floor with you.
Yes.
So in which case, Beta's going to struggle to get underneath Magnetar, basically, and Magnetar, I think, is going to try and get rid of some of the supporting structure for Beta. So Beta, like Terahertz, has a tail. It's more hidden than... Is it more hidden? I'd like to say it's more hidden. I might be
It's
lying
a bit
through my
more
teeth.
hidden, yeah. It's a little bit more hidden.
It's
The thing is, it nests the hammer more,
Yes.
if that makes sense. So the tail on Terahertz is just basically stopping it from wheeling.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on Beta, it's more of a something that the hammer. So whenever the hammer's retracted, it is very well hidden.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be well hidden from Magnetar, because Magnetar will be able to see underneath the hammer.
Yes.
And they're going to be chucking Beta all around the arena, and I think it's going to be quite upsetting to watch.
Yes.
Well, it depends.
Again,
You're a Magnetar fan.
I love Magnetar.
In which case, it won't be upsetting at all.
Well, no, it won't be upsetting, but I'm also a Beta fan, so I'm kind of screwed either. Again, it also has the same problem with Steel God of War. Obviously, Magnetar's a very small robot. Well, compared to other robots, it is anyway. We saw it over the weekend; it was huge. But compared to other robots, it is quite small. And again, Beta may struggle to catch it. The front wedges and the side wedges of Beta look like very tasty snacks for a nasty drum.
They do. They are very well suited to horizontals. They invite horizontals to fight them. Their fight against Tombstone was incredible. They're not so good against verticals.
No. And like you, I can see them getting chucked around a bit. I can see that rear tail being ripped up. Maybe they could get around the side while the hammer's retracted and try and do some damage to the hammer there. You know, it's
I think it's going to be a walkover for Ellis and Magnetar here, unfortunately. Beta, I think...
Judges, or do you think it would be a KO?
I would like to say that it would go to the judges, because I think I'm playing down John Reed a bit. He is an amazing driver, and
yes.
I think he could make the fight last.
And Beta's reliable.
Oh yeah, definitely. Beta.
It's a tough, sturdy machine.
Will last to the. In fact, didn't it last 3 minutes against Tombstone?
It did. Yeah, it went to the only reason it lost the fight was because it was the the primary weapon.
Oh, you're gonna have an active primary weapon, and that's all the aggression counts for.
Yeah, and of course their hammer they basically lost their hammer halfway through. So because of that, they lost the fight.
I think they are going to be chucked about, but I think they'll be able to retract and get back onto their wheels, take it to the judges, but got to be Magnetar on aggression, control, damage, style, if it was still a thing.
Fair enough. So, through to the heat final is Magnetar. Beta goes into the 3rd and 4th place playoff for a chance to enter the 10-way Rumble. Second heat semi-final, it is Ripper versus Huge again. Without an extra robot in the mix, does that change things for you? Yes or no?
No.
Wonderful. By the way, just well, kind of pointless really, but what I'm guessing you're putting Shunt and Dead Metal in for this one?
I am going to put Shunt and Dead Metal because the Dream Team.
Yeah.
So breaking this down, I think that Ripper won't bother with their anti-tall things device. And,
if there's anything left of it to begin with, to be fair.
Basically they're not going to have it anymore. So it will be a straight Flipper versus Vert, and I think it's going to be overhead attacks again from Huge, maybe. Ripper has a few bits sticking out that Huge could get hold of if they wanted to spin the bar up the other way, so go authentic vertical spinner style as opposed to unorthodox version. And Ripper, I mean, it can flip Huge, but Huge is invertible, and it won't have an effect. And I can't see Huge being defeated in any way, shape or form, unfortunately. I think it will go to the judges. I'm discounting Ripper's reliability issues. I'll let him off this one. Because I don't think there's... I want to say there's not much that Huge can get to up high. Although they might go with a longer bar here. As I said before, they're incredibly versatile. They have lots of different configurations they can go in with. So maybe they go for a longer bar, and maybe they can get to some juicy innards. So who knows what I'm saying? Maybe they'll cut the bungees and Ripper will flip and kill itself. Who knows? It's very difficult to predict a huge fight.
Yeah,
as I've found.
The only way I can see Ripper getting this one is, like I said earlier, maybe getting it towards the sidewall, getting one of the wheels stuck over the sidewall.
Yeah.
Which then give them a chance to then get them out properly. But I mean, again, they, according to your logic, and I agree with you, with another robot in the mix, Huge had no problems. I can't see having any problems here when it's just these two in there, and there's not a third robot they have to focus on. So,
what's different about the Extreme Robots Arena, which is what Ripper's used to, and the Robot Wars Arena, is the placing of the out of the arena zones. The Extreme Robots Arena has 2 out of the arena zones. Both are closer to the audience, but they're in the 2 corners, which sort of allows you to push a robot right up to the corner and then flip it out. Yeah. Whereas this arena, I think if Huge was pushed to an arena sidewall, they could easily just drive away from it or get far enough across so that they don't go out.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
The only way I can see Ripper taking a win, and I've just thought of it, and I've said it, this is the only way that Bronco could have beaten Huge in the fight the other week, was if Huge got stuck on their side with their long poley things getting stuck down a crevice. Now,
yes,
there is a large crevice in the flame pit.
There is.
I think that Ripper might try for it. I don't know whether they would succeed. The other option is, of course, the pit, which I'd completely forgotten about, but there's no guarantee that's going down.
Exactly. Odds are, basically, it's going towards Huge, isn't it?
Yes, basically. And by that logic, if we're saying it goes 3 minutes, which I said earlier... did I say that earlier? I can't remember.
Yes, you did say that earlier, yes.
Thank God.
Thank God someone was paying attention, eh?
Yeah. I swear you know more about my podcast than I do. By that logic, I'm going on a judge's decision. So based on aggression, I'm giving it to Huge. Based on control, I'm going to give it to Ripper because I think they would be probably the more controlling. They'll be pushing Huge around, trying to get some sort of win condition out of it, but not succeeding. And damage surely has to go to Huge because flippers don't often do damage.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Therefore, it goes to Huge.
And therefore, Huge goes into the heat final, and Ripper goes into 3rd and 4th place playoff to face off against Beta, which happens right now. So, house robots for this one.
Let's mix them up a bit from last round. So let's have Shunt and Sakillalot.
Okie dokie. So who are you going for out of Beta and Ripper? These two also fought each other earlier on in the show as well. They fought each other in the first round. Anyway.
I alluded to the fact that Ripper would be able to get underneath Beta. I think it still would. Beta, being a BattleBots machine, is designed to not get caught on the floor. All Roboteers going into BattleBots are told that the floor is not perfect. They know this going in. They have to sort their robots out to face that.
Yes.
So Beta is going to have some sort of ground clearance. Because of the way this competition works, we are literally lifting robots out of arenas and putting them in this one. It's as if they were ready to fight in BattleBots, then suddenly the sky opened, a giant hand went down, picked up John Reed and his robot, and put them in the Robot Wars arena.
So basically it's fan-made Robot Wars, that's basically what it is.
Yes, it is. This is the hypothetical fan-made Robot Wars. And by that logic, nobody wins.
Yes.
Or everybody wins.
Cassius 3, mate, that's what's going to win. Anyway,
Rubbish. I shall defeat you on the field of battle.
Oh. So, are you saying Ripper is definitely going to have the advantage in this fight then?
It's going to have the advantage. Whether it would win the fight, I haven't quite decided yet. I think Beta may make a beeline to the arena button. Although that said, in your knowledge, did John Reed ever press the arena button? other than to pick Carbide?
From what I can remember, no. I'm trying to remember now. Actually,
He doesn't seem
I
like
think
the sort of
I think most of the time it was his opponent hitting it.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like the sort of person who would go for an easy exit.
No, John's very much. I mean, obviously that's tough because I obviously I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I can't physically remember. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It's just saying I can't personally remember it.
No.
So I can't wait for that one person to now go and watch every single episode of the reboot to prove us wrong.
I know he was definitely surprised when Sabretooth pressed it. He was like, "Who did that?"
Yes.
But I can't for the life of me remember a time other than against Carbide when he's gone for the arena button. And in the fight against Carbide, obviously it was Series 8, it was assured that you would get the pit. There was no rogue house robot or anything, whereas there is now, and there's Fog of War. This is going to be a tricky one. And I might just pull out the old reliability card on Ripper. Do you think...
That lovely card that always benefits you when you need it.
Do you think that overhead attacks, and I want to ask you here because I don't want to be horribly biased one way or the other. Do you think that overhead attacks from Beta would cause Ripper to have reliability issues? In your honest opinion?
Honest opinion, it's possible for any robot to have reliability issues with that thing coming down and hitting you on the bonds.
Yes.
And with the reliability problems that Ripper does have, as of late, it's a very, very strong possibility that they would struggle, yes. I'm going to put my own 2 cents into this one. Obviously, you have the final say. Obviously. I'm more leaning towards Ripper for this, just because of the ground clearance thing, like we said. I can see John managing to outdrive John. And just get around the back, get around the sides, and chuck it around. I can't see a KO victory. I can't see an out of the arena. I can't see a pitting. But what I can see is a good, strong fight between two very good drivers. But for me, personally, out of the two weaponry, I'd say the Flipper has probably the more potential to do what it needs to do. But obviously, that's just me. You have the final deciding vote, and if you think the reliability of your Ripper would screw it over here, which they have every right to, then we will go with that.
I personally, before I asked you, my thought was no, because would Beta have an effect on Ripper? Ripper is a tank, and Ripper's top armor I know to be very strong because the live circuit didn't used to have spinners, and that meant you could put more armor on the top of your machine and not have to worry about the sides so much.
Yes.
By this logic, I think that I'm leaning very heavily towards Ripper here, and it's a shame because Beta is such a lovely robot, and I wanted to give it every chance I could. However, I do completely agree that Ripper would take the win here. And I also agree it wouldn't be a KO win, because a fight between a hammer and a flipper, unless there's some sort of magic smoke, you're not going to end up with a KO. So I think the judges would mark on control, which would go to Ripper. Damage, maybe some superficial damage from Beta to Ripper, but it's not going to affect the way the machine works. And actually, I just wanted to look up the definition of damage, because we did aggression last week, and let's do one per week. So damage,
to repeat ourselves a few times. But...
damage in the official Robot Wars handbook, the most up-to-date one, says damage is considered to be damage when the robot has caused clear damage to its opponent both visually and internally. I said damage way too many times there. So I think it would cause visual damage. I don't think it would cause internal damage. And so maybe split the points? I don't know. No, let's give those damage points to Beta, control points to Ripper, but aggression, I think Ripper's going to be driving all out and trying to go for it here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it to Ripper.
Yeah, and of course the other problem is, I mean, as we said last week, the aggression obviously is always taking the battle to the opponent.
It is.
When you have a hammer, you have to keep lining yourself up.
Yeah.
You have to keep moving away so you can get a good shot in. Meanwhile, with a flipper, you have the benefit of the fact that you're basically the entire front of your robot is your weapon. So you just have to go for all you have to do is just go for it, balls to the wall, and you've done it. So I can definitely see Ripper winning on aggression as well. So there we go. So Beta, so quite surprisingly, out. They're not even in the 10-way. That's actually a bit of a shock. And
Poor
Ripper
old
are
Johnny.
going into the 10-way Rumble, which is already looking like it's going to be a pretty good one.
Yeah, we've got 2 Flippers in there so far, and Duck last episode went in. So just let's see who else goes in.
I know. I'm both looking forward to it and dreading it entirely. But of course, now we have to move on to the Heat final, which is between Magnetar and Huge. Very, very interesting battle, this one. And I'm glad you had to take the wheels on this one because I really wouldn't want to. So, but before we go, you had Shunt and Dead Metal in the last one, didn't you? So Matilda and Skillalot?
It was Shunt and Sir Killalot in the last one. It's Dead Metal and Matilda in this one.
Sorry, I apologise.
Right. It was a long time ago.
It was.
Now, I want to take you back on a little journey through history.
Do we play some music for this?
I'm going to do the voiceover for the music, if you like.
Oh, okay, go on.
Take me back, man. Right. Magnetar, if you didn't know, is the new version of Pulsar.
No!
If you didn't know that, again, welcome to the robot community. Either that, or what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing here, you weird person?
Interestingly, I have quite a lot of American viewers. I never thought that I would have more American viewers than I would British, but, you know, they cancelled Robot Wars, so, you know.
Because the British make better YouTubers, it's obvious. There we go.
It's true. Very true. And the Americans love a British accent.
Oh, yeah.
So, Pulsar, in Series 8 of Robot Wars, fought Gabriel. And they did very well at attacking Gabriel, hitting it, and Gabriel did very badly at getting to Pulsar because it's quite a small machine. Magnetar, while bigger, as you said earlier, is still relatively small. Now, Huge recently, for this series, or this season, sorry, because we're using the correct vernacular for the series or season that we're referring to. This season, Huge went in with a Gabriel tactic of having rubber tyre. Now, Pulsar did very well at removing rubber tyre from Gabriel before and making it more difficult to drive. And I think this is going to be Ellis's tactic against Huge.
Yeah.
Now,
much like how it was Nash's tactic in the last heat against Gabriel.
Yeah. Now, Huge's tactic here, they're going to have measured Magnetar. They're going to have seen which bar they need, which wheels they need. And they're going to go in with whichever one can reach, basically. I think here they'll go in with an overhead attack, just because if you go in with a normal vertical setup where you're going to be hitting the robot sort of like an uppercut, you're not going to do much to Magnetar because of the magnets that are going to be holding it to the arena floor. You may push it backwards, but ultimately you're not going to do all that much.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, I think Magnetar has this one. Huge isn't as manoeuvrable as Magnetar is. Magnetar has a Shreemix, so if it does get turned over, it can self-right, and I'm going to give it 3 chances to self-right, because that seems to be the total amount of times it can before its self-righting goes up in magic smoke. And I think Huge might get put onto their side. Again, Ellis might look for the holes in the arena that they can get Huge stuck into. But ultimately, I think Magnetar has the win here.
That's a very fair shout. I also want to just say, I think personally, if it came to weapon versus weapon, if the two weapons hit, I see Magnetar's drum holding out a lot better than Huge's bar does.
Yes. Huge.
And you've got no argument from me, mate. To be honest.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked you to be on this podcast. This is why
I
it's
know.
not
Well,
a debate show.
I know. I thought earlier we were going to have a bit of a debate with the whole Ripper Beta thing. 'Cause I thought you were swaying towards Beta, and then you go and bloody
Oh,
one
no.
up me and say, "Oh no, I'm thinking Ripper." So, all right then. Next time we will definitely disagree. We'll discuss it beforehand, and we'll decide which one we're going to disagree on.
I think you may be right. There's a few in here that I think we will actually disagree on.
Oh, jolly good.
And we'll get into them in a minute. So I'm going to say then that Huge loses the battle, but hasn't quite lost the war yet. They're going through to redemption, the 10 Robot Rumble, and Magnetar I think will go through to the grand final for me.
Fair enough. That is a very, very fair shout, and I completely agree 100%.
Wonderful.
That was fun.
It was fun. Some really good machines in here, and once again, not the machine I thought would win this.
No.
If I had to pick one going in, I think I was leaning towards Ripper. Then when we started talking it through, I thought Huge potentially, but what about yourself?
Yeah. I put it was between Ripper and Magnetar for me, in all honesty. Just looking at the robots involved, I was quite surprised at how much of an impact Huge made.
Yes.
And I was also very shocked at how little of an impact Beta made. The only real thing that wasn't a surprise is Steel God of War got shagged inside out.
It did. And with that...
That's the only thing. that didn't surprise me.
I'm going to tell you which robots are in the next heat, Anderson.
Oh, and I'm going to listen because I have to.
A sneaky little preview here. So, I have gone for Tough as Nails from the Robot Wars World Series.
The most recent one.
Yes, basically. I have gone for Dantomkia from Robot Wars Series 8.
Ooh.
And I have gone for Greedy Snake from King of Bots.
Oh.
2018. It's the grappler one that looks like Bite Force and Overhaul.
Oh wow! So it's 3 very different machines there.
Yeah, and then we'll have Toxic 2 from Robots Live 2019, which is a big wedge flipper, a Brit flipper, how Mr. Psycho would probably describe it.
Yep.
We have Shatter from BattleBots Season 9. And we have Monsoon from BattleBots Season 8. So last year's Monsoon.
Yes, that's going to be an interesting one. That's going to be very good. I cannot wait for that heat. I really can't. That sounds awesome.
So there we are.
Here we go. But he picks that lot, and I pick Steel God of War. Jesus Christ.
I think you have some wild cards in your heats, Anderson. Having a look at them.
Although, well, to be fair, looking at my Heat D, I think I'm pretty happy with that. But we will not discuss that. That's for next week to discuss.
That is spoilers.
Exactly.
Boo. Right. With all that in mind, thank you, Anderson, for joining me once again.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
I'd just like to tell you, I turned then, expecting to talk to you, and you're in my headphones.
Oh,
This
dear.
has been an utter shambles. No, it's been the Judge's Decision podcast. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a like. Do subscribe to the channel if you are new. And I shall see you. And so will Anderson. I'm annoyed at myself for last week where I said, I shall see you. We shall see you next week.
We shall see you.
Join our cult. We shall see
Sorayan,
you.
Hayamanon, Ahana. Sorayan, Ahamana, Hayanan. You know.
Somebody broke Anderson. We shall see you next week. So long as we record it. Bye.